Hi guys, how you doing? And welcome to my channel, Claire Thackeray. Today we're going to channel another important and interesting figure from our historical past, which is Harry Gordon Selfridge. Harry Gordon Selfridge, you may know him as Mr. Selfridge from the drama series that was on round about, was it round about 2012, 2013, 14, 15, that period. That's the first time I found out about Harry Selfridge, and it's possibly the first time many of you found out about Harry Selfridge. And I remember thinking and just falling in love with the story and with the man, not as in a sexual way, but as in what a remarkable human being. He was a man of his time, but also a man ahead of his time. And another late Victorian gentleman, we channeled Bram Stoker last week and we're channeling Harry Selfridge this week. So another late Victorian gentleman, but another late Victorian gentleman that has so much to offer us. He basically did it all and had it all and lost it all. And I think in the times that we're in at the minute, where people are losing jobs, businesses are changing, businesses are collapsing, got the cost of living stuff, I think it's really important to bring somebody forward that lived through a very similar time or lived through something very similar. And what an amazing person to bring through, and I'm literally going ice cold at this minute, that actually went from being super rich beyond his wildest dreams to literally, I mean, I watched a couple of videos yesterday just to bring myself up to speed and just remember myself. But one of the saddest things was that he basically started Harrods. It was an American. I'll go into his date of birth, and he was born in America, and he worked his way up in America and then brought the whole American idea of shopping to the United Kingdom. And the United Kingdom at the time wasn't really, it didn't have department stores, it just had smaller shops, and everything was put in glass cabinets and everything was cold and a bit like we're going back to now actually, but it'll come to that. And he brought out the shopping experience. He came into UK, came into England. He actually designed some designs for something that looked like St Paul's Cathedral, because what he wanted was the cathedral of shopping. And the powers that were at the time, powers that be at the time, powers that were at the time, said no, he couldn't do that. So he designed the modern day Selfridge. Selfridges in London, Oxford Street. And it was the first building to ever have, the first shopping centre to have electricity in. It was the first steel, they do that. I'm not a builder, excuse me, apologies, but the steel building, it was the first one to devise that as well for shopping. He was the first one to devise the department store for the UK. He was the first one to make the shopping experience an experience rather than something you had to do. It was the first department store to have toilets in, because he believed that when women shopped, they should spend all day in the shop. Before I go any further, I must just remind people that I'm channeling a Victorian gentleman. So when he talks about women shopping, which he's going to be talking about women shopping an awful lot, back in the day when he owned Selfridges, women shopped. Men, we said earlier, men worked, women shopped. Okay, please don't let that trigger you. This is a man from a different time, and I know that if you walk into Selfridges now, you will see a mixture of people, all shapes, sizes, colours, nationalities, all sexes, etc. But the period that he's talking about, the people that would have shopped in Selfridges fundamentally would have been female. Probably more high-end housewives, high-end ladies, titled women, but his department store actually targeted all ages, all backgrounds of women, all backgrounds of shoppers, which made him again unique in his time. He had toilets, he had toilets. He had chairs and seating areas within the department store, again, so when you're out shopping and you just want to sit down and rest, you could sit down in there. I mean, he's going to go into all kinds of things today about the music and department stores, the ambience, what's happening now and why it's happening now, and the agenda behind that, and why a lot of us now struggle to go into department stores, and how it's very different to when he was in charge of Selfridges. He was also for the underdog as well. Again, an old-fashioned name, the underdog. He was all about investing in your staff. He was all about giving women the chance in the workplace. So for although his shop was about getting women in to spend money, he was also about giving William, who's William? Who's William? Why is the word William come in? This is weird because this is twice this has happened now this morning where another name's come into my head. Giving William. Who's William? I'll come back to that. I might pull some cards on that. Giving women a William. Who's William? Is it Prince William? I don't know. Prince William wasn't alive back then, I know that. But why are we getting William? Why is William just dropped in? I know it's the documentary day, isn't it? Why is William? It doesn't feel as if it's connected to royalty. Anyway, move on. Maybe there was somebody called William that worked with him, giving William the chance. Interesting. Ooh, it might make sense as we go forward. Giving William, I've just said it again. What's going on? Who's William? Giving William the chance in the workplace. Let me get my Radiant Rider-Waite out. Oh, do you know what this is? He's been telling me stories this morning about his time there, and some of it involves the then royal family, not the royal family now. And he's also been telling me stories about things falling and things dismantling and the future of shopping and the many towers that are falling and society and aristocracy. And I'm just wondering if I'm tapping into something with the modern day monarchy. I actually swore blind I wouldn't do any more royal content at the minute. As I'm doing this now, UK time, that documentary with Harry and Meghan is airing, right? It's on Netflix, so you can watch it anytime you want. I'm wondering if this is something to do with monarchy stopping, being abolished, the end of the monarchy. Let me pull some cards. Sorry, my eyes just started watering as well. What is going on? I'll come back. I need to just pull this in. Victory at the bottom. Who's William? Show me who William is, please, Harry. Show me who William is. Show me who William is. Cards just dropped out. The Emperor. The Tower. This is Prince William. This is Prince William. What is he telling me about Prince William? Is he telling me about Prince William? Or am I just connecting with something coming on, happening? Right, you cannot make this up. The Emperor. I'm reckoning. Prince William, I did not expect this, by the way. Look at these cards have just come out. Emperor, fears, restrictions, and the tower crumbling. He's showing me who I'm filming on my phone, so I can't Google it, and my laptop is over there. Well done, Claire. Let me know in the comments, was it Queen Mary that was queen at the time? I think because he was talking about Queen Mary. Whoever was Queen Mary's husband is also Prince William, is the reincarnation of Queen Mary's husband. Was it King George? I'm ignorant of this. It's rude. I don't even know his name. King George, the one with the beard. I would say the one with the beard. They all had beards back then, didn't they? What are you saying about William? God, don't let me trigger people. Don't let me trigger people. I actually feel that the monarchy is ending. And I think it's coming a lot soon. I wasn't planning on this. Oh God, why are you doing this? Because I didn't want to do a royal video. Giving William a job. Well, William would have to go back into the workplace. I think he's trying to tell us something here. I think the emperors are falling. And I think many of the emperors of our world are going to have to go back into the workplace. I love how he's doing this. I don't want to go down the route of modern day monarchy in this reading because it's too toxic at the minute. But I'm thinking that Prince William is the reincarnation of the king that was in charge during Harry Gordon's reign at Selfridge's. And it feels as though there's some karmic clearing for him, because as the king back then, we know past lives we change characters and meat suits, etc. But it feels as though there's some karmic, I don't want to say the word payback. Some people are not going to like what I'm trying to say here, and it's going to trigger people, I know it is. But I feel as though if William gets to I've said this before, it's going. I feel as though it's going. I wasn't expecting that. I know Harry has been talking about monarchy, the monarchy he knew then. And I'm going to share some of those stories, but yeah, William find a job. So he wanted to give women a job and women a place in the workplace. Wanted to give William, that was weird, that, wasn't it? You can't make that shit up, actually. You can't make it up, but you just can't make it up. And he was all about investing in his staff, and he was all about training his staff. I think this one's happened to me before, by the way, with William. I actually should have, oh God, I'm off. I actually should have been born on the same day as William. But I wasn't. I was born after. I was due to be born on the 21st, the same day William was due to be born. 21st of June, but I was born on the 26th. So I'm same age as William, literally same age. My mum was called Diane. Weird connections, I know, She was born on the 1st of July, my mum. Diana was born on the 1st of June. No, my mum was born on the same day, Diana, 1st of July. They both got the same birthdays. So I've always been able to kind of connect into William without even trying to connect into William. And I think this is something that I'm connecting into him without even realising that I'm connected into him. Yeah, right, let's leave that, clear that. I don't want to go into raw stuff in this reading. Not the modern day stuff anyway. Yeah, because I know he told me about Queen Mary and some of the stuff that was, they didn't pay bills and things, apparently. The royal family of the day, the Victorian day, not Queen Victoria, Queen Mary, something about Queen Mary and not paying bills. And I'll go into that when I come to it. I don't want to confuse myself. I think that's why I've brought in William as well, because he was her husband in that lifetime. So I'm having a feeling that maybe they weren't the nicest of people. I also think that she's off. She can't keep it shut, can she? I also think it's making. I'm gonna have to go into it because Queen Mary, Catherine of Aragon, Catherine. Oh, for fuck's sake! Get out! Catherine Middleton, the Princess of Wales. We know she was Catherine of Aragon in a past life. She was also Queen Mary. Okay, and I'm just got incredibly dizzy at talking about that. So can I take that off because I don't want to go down raw routes unless it's in this video in relation to the old stuff. Let's think of something else to talk about. He had some amazing. So anyway, and he invested in his staff. He trained his staff. He inspired his staff. He took time to talk to his staff. He was interested in the poor. He was interested in helping the poor. He helped the suffragette movement. When department stores in London stopped the suffragettes from shopping in there, he put the suffragette flags outside. He put that's incense, by the way. He put the suffragettes inside. He welcomed them in. And I think one of his workers was a suffragette that got put in prison, and the staff, him, everybody supported her, wrote letters, and I think they shortened her prison sentence. So he was someone that, multidimensional. He was a womanizer, he was a gambler, he spent incredible loads of money and bankrupted himself and nearly bankrupted Selfridges. But he was also a very kind man, and he was for the underdog, he was for inspiring, he was for change, he was for motivating, he was for the future, he was for bringing something new, he was for experience, he was for the sensory experience. That's one of the things he was telling me earlier, that when you went into Selfridges back in the day, sorry, that's incense, when you went into Selfridges back in the day, it was all about the sensory experience. It was all about feeling, touching, smelling, sensing, embracing, enjoying. Very different to what we're experiencing now, okay? For example, he told me when you went into Selfridges back in the day, you had the piano playing, you had a harp playing, because he showed me, me and Gary used to go on holiday on Cunard cruise ships, and you'd go and it was all about ambience on Cunard. It's very similar to the Victorian Selfridge, where it was harp music and flowers and plants and ambience and spending all day there. He wanted you all day in that shop, and you could spend. And I said, but why don't they want that now? This was earlier, and he said, Back then, Selfridges was one of its kind on Oxford Street. So there was no other competition early days when Selfridges started. So everyone went there. So he wanted to keep everyone there all day. Now, it's in different hands now with Selfridges. It's totally different to what it was then. And he's going to go into that in down in different episodes of this channel, okay? And you will now get a woman that will go in now and she will buy, he's saying woman obviously, because, and she will buy a dress for £3,000. She might buy some shoes for a few hundred. She'll buy the bag and she'll leave. And she'll go somewhere else and get the jewellery. She'll go somewhere else and get the hat. She'll go somewhere else and get the makeup. She'll go somewhere else and get the perfume. Because Oxford Street is just, and London is just a mass of shops. So there's more choice. So actually the owners now don't want you in there all day because they've got different women. They want the quick sale. They want you in, they want you buying, they want you back out. Which is why when you go in, this is stuff that I got from the stuff I'm channeling, which is why when you go into something like Selfridges now, the music's weird. He said something earlier about echoing in department stores, and it's purposely done. It's purposely done. Echoing in department stores affects your ears, affects your balance, so you go in and you become a bit disorientated. So literally you don't have time to pick up two things and go, well, that's 50 and that's 200. It's almost like, I don't care how much it is, just give me, I need to get out. And that's what they operate now in the department stores that we've got now. Whereas back then it was all about ambience. It was all about meeting up with your friends, your female friends. It was all about coffee and cake and chatter and mother's meeting. And you know, a woman would go into Selfridges and she'd buy her hat. In one visit she'd buy her tights, her underwear, her hats, her jewellery, and she'd have her maids with her and her butlers with them. They'd carry the bags for her. Whereas the woman that goes in now buys probably 1, 2, 3 things and they're off to another shop. So that's why they want you in and they want you out, because they want the next person in. Because what they don't want is people that are just going to be in there gawping all day, browsing. It's very different shopping energy now to what it was then. And that's one thing I explained of why when we go into department stores now, it can be incredibly triggering and disorientating and heat as well. That's why they make them so warm. But they want you in and they want you back out again. They want you spending. They disorientate you to spend. And they do things with colours and with lighting and with sound and with smell. And then they want you out. Whereas back in Harry's day, he wanted you in there all day. And it wasn't because he just wanted the money. Obviously, he did want the money. But he wanted, he was a showman. He wanted ambience. He wanted the big fanfare. I mean, Google him after you've watched this video. He had some amazing quotes. The customer is always right, which was his quote. The boss drives his men. The leader coaches them. The boss inspires fear. The leader inspires enthusiasm. Excite the mind and the hand will reach for the pocket. I've covered all that. The suffragette that worked there was called Gladys Evans. It was all about the shopping experience. What else have I got written down? I'm just going to look at my notes and then we'll move on to the channeling. First store to mass electricity, covered that. The Dolly sisters, towards the end of his life, he had an affair with 2 sisters called the Dolly sisters. And actually that was where the term Dolly Bird comes from, okay? 1930s he started up Selfridges. In his 80s, wait, sorry, leave my notes demoted. It was actually in his 80s when he was an 80-odd-year-old man when he finally got demoted in Selfridges. Basically, his own men chucked him out. And he used to visit Selfridges every day and stand outside dressed as in tramp clothes. His hat was battered, his clothes was battered. He lost everything. I'll talk about how he lost everything. And he would be seen outside Selfridges counting his money, or they would just sit there counting his money. And he would go early doors and leave late. And I think at one point he actually got arrested outside Selfridges because they thought he was a vagrant. And I just, when you hear that, for me, it just broke my heart, because he was a man that absolutely tried to help society. Yes, he was immensely rich. Yes, he was a womanizer. Yes, he gambled. He was multidimensional. But fundamentally, for the underdog, he really tried to fight. And I wonder if, and I do feel as if that was one of the reasons why the powers that were within Selfridges, because they will have been everywhere, wanted him out. Because one of the things he showed me was he tried meeting rooms in London at the time about homeless and about things with water and nutrition. And obviously the rich would go to these, and he would go and try to fight for more sanitation, to fight for more rights and justice for the poor. And I think from what I was shown, a lot of people at the time, powerful people, didn't like that, and he was a threat. He's telling me, he was also a man that was able to watch and observe, and he was aware of a lot of things. And towards the end of his reign at Selfridges, the world was getting colder and colder and colder, and he didn't like that. He didn't like that. He was expected to turn a blind eye to certain things. He was expected not to speak up about certain things. And he says it seemed as though as he was getting older and older and older, he was losing his grip on Selfridges and the core values he wanted it to have, as other people came in and they were more powerful and more money driven and they were more easily bendable and manipulated, and they were more, you think about Selfridge as a powerhouse, isn't it? It's money, there's a lot of money and there's a lot of power. There's a lot of rich influential people that shopped there, including royalty. And one of the things he was showing me earlier was he tried to get, it was very much like Mordell Fayed, he tried to get into aristocratic circles, bless him, because that's the only way you were heard in London, because back then, to be in those circles, and he never really made it. I think he got chewed up and spat back out, to be honest. One of the things that came to me earlier was that you had to be of a certain ilk to be totally accepted in them circles. Those, not them circles. Talk properly, Claire. And that still stands now. So if you're not accepted in those circles, you're not of a certain ilk. And when I say a certain ilk, I don't mean you've got to be of a certain financial ilk. I mean you've got to be of a certain energetic ilk, okay? You've got to be lacking in something, okay? Your face has got to fit, and his face didn't fit. He's saying his money fit, but his face didn't fit. So let's look at his numerology. Because we've waffled on a bit there, haven't we? Thanks, Prince William. So Harry Gordon Selfridge was born on the 11th of January in 1858, and he died on the 8th of May 1947. He has so many ones in his numerology, it's untrue, like 4 ones, which is like 1111. So he is a portal. He came in as a portal. So his numbers are 25, destruction, chaos and destruction. So he comes in with chaos and destruction, but new beginnings and to embrace challenges. He was trying to bring something in, and he was also causing chaos and destruction, which at the end of his life became chaos and destruction. I'll come to that later. So 2 and 5, 7, intellectuals, deep thinkers, philosophers and scholars. Okay, so that's a lot about his numerology. I'm not into numerology, but I look at it online. That's not one of my strongest points. I just do it for the channelings. I think it's interesting. I mean, by any means, any of you that can do astrology, look up his birth line. Look up his birth line. No, I want to talk about bloodlines. Look up his birth chart. You can, you when I do channelings and stuff, you can go look at the birth charts afterwards and do your own stuff afterwards. It doesn't just stop when I stop, but you can do your own stuff. So yes, recovery time. Let me have some water after that. How was his downfall? He was a gambler, and the older he got, the worse he got with gambling. And he was a loser, more of a winner in gambling. And he started, once his own personal money had gone, he then started to use Selfridge's money. And the Selfridge's department store came to a point where it was close to bankruptcy, and he got warning. They have like the board of trustees, don't they? Because he put so much money in. They all have a say in it. Well, basically, the board of trustees turned against him. But he did say yesterday, rightly so in some respects, because he was going to destroy it because of his gambling and his flippancy and because he's womanizing and etc, etc, etc. One of the things he said earlier when I was getting ready this morning was, had I been born in those times and done something for him, as in this video that we're doing for him today, he would have invited me into Selfridges. And I said, oh, what, like for a couple of hours and I could spend what I wanted? He said, oh no, you'd get the day. So any women, don't get triggered by it, that maybe, I don't know, baked him a nice cake or did something amazing, or a woman, it wasn't filthy, dirty, seedy, it was something of its time. It could be a friend of his wife, it could be anyone that he felt as though he wanted to just splurge on or spoil or give. It could even be somebody that came from the wrong end of town. And he said, I'd invite you into Selfridges for the day and you'd have free reign. And this is something apparently he told me used to do with women, where they could come in and just have free reign. A lot of it were mistresses as well. It doesn't feel seedy, the stuff he did, because one of the things he said this morning was, it was always with equal women. It was never with somebody that was weaker than him. It was never with someone that was more vulnerable. And for although women were younger than him, they were women and nothing sinister, okay? So in case because people think millionaires and we start going down those rabbit holes, it wasn't anything like that. And he said, no, if I invited you into Selfridges, Claire, what departments would you like? And from that I get that he would have made those departments available to me for the day. Oh yes. So I said perfume, books, probably jewellery as well, afternoon tea. And I reckon even if say invited me in today after this reading, I reckon I'd be uncomfortable with that. I wouldn't be the type of woman that would, if I was going to spend all day in Selfridges, I'd probably spend all day looking around it. I'd probably spend all day in the reading room, because they had a reading room back then as well in a library. So if that's still there, or if it's a bookshop they have in that, I'd probably spend all day there. I'd probably let him treat me to a couple of books. I couldn't be the type of woman that would just like fleece him, but women did fleece him. Negative to the divine feminine there. He wants to talk about having it all and losing it all. He wants to share some stories as well from the time. So let's do the Queen. So yeah, he said this morning, the royal family didn't pay their stuff with Selfridges and other department stores, other shops, and it was well known in London. And they spent a lot of money. Well, they got a lot of stuff at a costly price. And he said, one of the things he said was he struggled as a shop owner, called himself a shop owner, to get the money back. And in fact, in some cases, you were told to let them have it because of who they were. And I just thought, that's disgusting. It's disgusting. Disgusting. And he, at the time, when he was telling me this morning, he said that Mary, who was the queen of the day, was one of the worst culprits. When I actually tune into her energy, did we not get some freaky stuff come up when we channeled what was her name, Wallis Simpson? Yeah, I always feel some freaky energy around there, some really cold, heartless energy. I'm not going to go too further with it because I don't want to start triggering people. Yeah, I mean, I'm in England right now, and today is a dark day for the monarchy, really. And I think probably we're picking that up. And I'm not getting into who's right, who's wrong, but anyway. So yeah, you think about people's jobs relied on that place, and you think about why they did that and what possessed them. One of the things he said this morning was he observed the aristocracy going in and the rich, and how they treated their staff. Because if they had a lady's maid or a lady in waiting, they would go in with them, or a butler or a foreman would go in with them. And it disgusted him to see how they treated their staff. And he's saying, even when he visited certain houses, the staff were treated appallingly. He's, you know, we look at Downton Abbey and we think, oh, Downton Abbey, oh, and it was not like that. He said it was a dark, evil place to work in service. You know, they were undernourished, they were underpaid, they were abused in many different forms. They were witness to things. They were treated as slaves. They were really treated as the lowest of the low. And very rarely you'd get somebody that would have a close relationship with their lady in waiting, because it wasn't all dark. But the underbelly of it was, and he tried to be different with his staff. I don't know if he had, actually. He said it was like a slave energy. He tried to be different. He was all about fair pay, fair rules, fair training, and inspiring them. And actually, one of the things he's saying, that it wasn't just his Selfridges, it was their Selfridges. He would inspire his workforce to feel that that was also not, this is my empire and you all are working for me, so get working. He was very different to that, and it was all about, he wanted them all to feel important. Right from someone that swept the yard afterwards, right up to one of the trustees at the top. He wanted them all to. He says, even though at times dark things did happen to staff there, because he couldn't be there all the time. He couldn't be watching everybody all the time. And he tried to stop it. Dark stuff happened. He's showing me that someone that came in ill, he was out of the, this isn't something online, he was out of the country, and so a member of staff came in ill, and it was a female member of staff that came in ill, and it was an older female that was in charge of the department. And he said he was always concerned about this older female staff that was in charge of the department. She was really toxic, abusive. Never been with a man, he's saying, never loved, never a spinster, okay? And she worked this person and worked this person and worked this person. It wasn't a virus this person had, it was some illness, it was a cancer this person had. And he wasn't in the country when this was happening. And this person died. This person obviously had cancer, but they died, and she kept them working, kept them working, kept them working, kept them working. And he's saying that a lot of the rich women that came to the counter saw this and were concerned that this girl was working, working, working. He said, oh God, that's awful. He said some of them were concerned because she wasn't appealing, because obviously she was dying and she was emaciated, and they didn't like that on the counter. So they took her off the counter and they put her somewhere else. And every day he's saying she would turn up to work, every day, and she would turn up to work. And now he's taking me into her home, which is in the slums. He's called it the slums of London. And she then got some type of pneumonia on her lungs, and she's coughing and coughing and coughing and coughing and coughing. He didn't find it. I feel as though he actually visited her. He actually visited her as she was dying. He actually found out about it, and he visited her, and he said he tried to sack the woman that had done this, but she was from a well-bred family. She was from a well-bred family. And it was a struggle to get rid of her. He said, I want to get rid of her. And he said it was things like that you can't be in that shop all the time. You just can't. And it's such a big shop that even if you're in there all the time, you can't be watching. But he tried his best. He tried his best. He says this is a problem in today's society with retail staff. That retail staff are being treated as slaves. And some of them actually are slaves. He says it's still people. Oh God. There's a big thing about past slavery at the minute, isn't there? Do you know what that's all about? I'm going to drop a bomb here. The reason why they're asking you to look at the past slavery and get your focus there, and many people are diving in there and doing it and getting all, which is rightly so because it was awful, is to actually take your eye off the ball here, because it's still happening here with different cultures, different nationalities, different religions. And it's done in a very different way. So if we take your focus from present and put it in the past, That's where your focus is. So what your focus needs to be on, guys, your focus needs to be on the past and the present. And people are taking their eye off the ball because they're going down all these different avenues and they're not seeing it. They're not seeing it. And one of the things he's saying is a lot of department stores now are employing people from different cultures, different countries that can't speak the language, that don't know the culture, that don't know the etiquette, that don't know the money, that don't know... I mean, think if somebody picked you up now and put you in a shop in another... Every country has its own culture. And he says they're struggling on the shop floor. And this is why actually one of the big things of customer service at the minute, there isn't any. Because a lot of them, if they are from this country, if there's somebody born in this country, they're not being inspired. There's something about work ethic within the UK at the minute which has totally gone. The work ethic has totally gone. And he's saying that there's also the aspect of cheap labour. And he's saying they're taking your eye off the ball nowadays where you see, there's nothing you can do about the past. To make peace with it, learn from it, but there's everything you can do about the future and the present. So when we're there, you see people getting so indignant about the past and what was happening in the past, and then you see them then getting their phones out and they're getting the bags and getting themselves all glammed up, and they're going into Selfridges, going into this shop, going into that shop, and they're actually being quite narcissistic with some of the assistants that are struggling with the language, struggling with the etiquette, and it's all like... And what they do, they say they're too blind to realise that they're preaching something about the past. But I'm going to get shut down in flames for this. And it's happening in the modern day. And they're not seeing it because they don't want to see it. Because it's easier to point the finger at the past than it is the present. Interesting. So, sending light to that. My nose is actually starting to run when I'm talking about that. Take it off. Take it off. I don't have to blow my nose on camera. That'd just devastate me, that. I think I've done it once when I blew my nose. Anyway, so we've covered that. What time are we on? 36 minutes on here. So I'll break this up soon and we'll go on to the other camera. Interesting, isn't it? It's really interesting when you sit down with these people, because I actually wouldn't have realised that. I wouldn't have realised that. What's happening in the modern world had I not been able to sit with Harry Selfridge and learn that. I think in the next 2 episodes, I'm going to try and do it over 3 episodes. We're going to talk about losing it and ways to come forward. Anything else about shopping? I know I know it's going to crumble. He says that he's seen the timeline where Selfridges goes, and all of the department stores are going bit by bit, store by store, area by area. It's going. He says if you go into department stores now, they're very sporadic. If you went in back then, it was full to the brim of shelves and stuff and plants and ambience, and it was just full. Now if you go into a department store, it's actually not that full, because actually one of the things he's saying is they're struggling financially, and it's not actually out there how financially these places are struggling, and a lot of them are on the brink of bankruptcy, and this information's being held back from public consumption, but they're on the brink of bankruptcy. He's saying to people, any of you that work in retail, keep your ears open and your eyes open. He says, don't wait until it's too late, because that was one of his problems in his lifetime. He always waited until it was too late, especially as he got older. And he's talking to older people that work in these places that are going to start falling. Keep any whiff or that something, keep your eye on the ball, keep your eye on other jobs, keep your eye on self-employment, because self-employment is going to be a big thing that comes back. He said it's weird how I was one of the pioneers that built up the department store. He says, and now we're seeing the department store fall down. He said, now there's going to be the corner shops are coming back. The small businesses are coming back. He said, and I'm going to try and be a pioneer of that, because there is no difference between the man that owns Selfridges and the man that owns the little quaint hat shop around the corner, because both of them are blood and bone and soul, and actually both of them can have an ambience within their shop. And he's actually talking about, if you're a small business owner, bringing ambience into your small business. Even if you're worried about money and you're worried about the world, he says we have to put on our public faces, because that's how you get people in, and that's how you get new energy and a new flow in. He said for people that are still in retail, he said, Try your best to smile and to be of service. Even if you don't like the job, you don't like the business, and we understand why he's saying, we understand with this modern world that we've got, but actually it helps you. He's also saying that you don't know the person that you're smiling to, trying your best to, helping to serve, brighten up their day could be the CEO of another business that actually wants you. And they don't just want you, they want to inspire you. He said, so every customer you have, be it a pauper that comes in, be it a rich man that comes in. Oh, this is a rich man, not a rich woman. Love it. And they're triggered, unsubscribing, had enough. Yes, you don't know where they can lead you. And it says you're actually showing the universe that you're willing to be your own entrepreneur. Be your own entrepreneur. When you go to work and you hate it, there you go. And we've all been it. I hate shopping. I used to love shopping. I hate shopping. And you go in and it's, they don't want to help you. They don't want to go into the stock room. They don't want to look at you. There's no eye contact. They're actually blocking themselves energetically. So if you work in one of these shops, even if you don't like it, even if it's the counter of McDonald's or the counter of KFC, smile, smile, smile. Put your public face on. Because what he's saying is, if you show the universe the willingness to, I want to be something different. Because he's saying that's the problem. They all want something different and they all want to be something different. And they all feel as though they actually are worth more than where they're working. And they probably are. It's but they're not willing to show the universe that. The ones that show the universe are the ones that will go work there for a few months and then ping, they've gone because they've gone somewhere else and they were able to work up the ladder. So it's about being what you want to see in the world. Does that make sense? I like that. I like that analogy. Interesting. I want some more water. He's drawing my attention back. Is it King George? I have to Google him, won't I, when I've finished his filming. He's taking my attention back there. What are you telling me about the royals? What the present royals got to do with this video? He's saying reincarnation. A lot of the present royals we've got are reincarnated like we are reincarnated. There are also royals that have been in these circles before. Circles? Wink, wink. Why are you showing me Prince William? Why are you showing me the royals? Look at that. There's something coming big. There's something coming big, guys. Yeah. There's a huge, huge karmic clearing coming, and it's going to be huge. Interesting. Right. I'm going to start the next one. See you in the next one. Bye.